So I'm Adrienne. I'm actually a doctoral student at the UCLA School of Nursing. And so I did my master's at Drew, which was a fantastic experience. And I chose Drew because of the disparities focused. And so when I pitched my entry at UCLA, I very much wanted to look at diabetes, particularly in Northeast LA, because that's where I'm from. And also the disparities are so high there in relation to type 2 diabetes. I, in particular, am interested in somehow working on reducing the disparities for older women, because not only do they suffer disproportionately compared to just the US population, but they actually suffer disproportionately compared to men in their same age cohort, which is kind of fascinating to me. It ends up being something like 25 to 30% are either diagnosed or undiagnosed but have diabetes. And that's problematic, but it's especially problematic in the Mexican-American culture because the older woman is such a pivotal member and it's such a pivotal role for the entire family. Traditionally and even now, they provide something like 25% of all childcare, which allows the younger generations to work, especially single moms, which is a increasing population, young Latina single parents. So it's a critical person. Lots of studies out there, and very few significant studies, partly because the factors we're assuming are going to be effective, tweaking this factor or that factor, are all about diet and exercise and medication compliance. But somehow we just aren't really coming up with anything that's showing any real efficacy. And so I wanted to kind of dig down into each one of those factors. And my dissertation is a grounded theory study of just talking to women that first year after their diagnosis and seeing how they navigate that experience and what their emotional experience is. But for this particular study, I chose to focus specifically on exercise because Northeast LA is the intersection of 3 major gangs. And so that's problematic. It certainly limits your access to green space. It is a food desert of sorts. What it is actually is a food swamp. So you have overrepresentation of unhealthy food and fast food. And various other factors, just like geographic limitations as far as walkability goes, and the concrete itself is actually problematic. So there's so many things going on that are preventing people from exercising. But some of the studies that have come out have shown that even if you improve those factors, the actual exercise doesn't increase. So I was trying to look at something cultural that may be behind this image, and I dug in a little bit into the archetype and expectations surrounding older women and whether or not it's even okay for them to exercise. And it kind of turns out that it isn't, that there's a lot of stigma about them spending time away from the family unit to do something that's very individual focused, even if it's healthy. It's also perceived as a time when you're kind of being unmonitored, so who knows what you're up to. And there's also some stigma about losing weight itself. So it's not expected that grandma is healthy, fit, and plays tennis. That's not somehow as maternally acceptable as like a kind of round figure that's near a stove. So I really wanted to look at getting some good imagery out there for public health materials, because if you give somebody a pamphlet, odds are the woman on the pamphlet's not looking like an older, healthy Latina doing stuff, because there just aren't images available. So I wanted to build up some images that we could make open source on the internet in case anybody wants to do a pamphlet that's encouraging these women to exercise. I also wanted to play with this archetype. And so the way we did it was through muralism, which is a big part of Mexican culture. It's a big part of Mexican-American culture. Diego Rivera actually mentored Judith Baca, who's one of our biggest muralists here in LA. She's the head of one of the 2 big mural companies. I actually worked at the other one. But I've done over 50 murals in LA and Riverside County, and I have never, ever done one that was health-focused. I've never seen one that was health-focused. They are so about perpetuating this woman holding a swaddling baby or holding flowers or doing something that really isn't making them an active figure. So I worked with this community center and met with the people there, and we're moving along pretty quickly. I don't want to take too much time, but basically, press home to, okay, I'll figure that out in a second. But basically what we did was facilitate these different painting classes and get women from the community, and they always brought their grandkids, it was like all ages, and just had them paint what a healthy older woman looks like. And then we started kind of changing those images so that they would match what muralism would look like. The site is attached to a church that has beautiful stained glass windows, so we wanted to emulate those windows and include local graffiti artists, because if you don't include people who live there in the painting process, it's not going to last even a couple days. So I wanted to show up, let them tell me what they thought, let them tell me who the artists were, invite the artists and let them do what they thought they were going to do. And I was basically there to provide some stewardship so that this is their project. We were going to do some pre and post testing, but it really ended up being more a community-based participatory research experience for me because I hit some major walls. There's a new homeless population that has never been in that neighborhood, but because it's more recently gentrified, I'm on York Boulevard in Highland Park. There's more money, and now there's homeless people who really weren't in that community when I was growing up. And so a lot of my meetings, if we had food, would be mostly men. And then the women wouldn't talk about this at all because it's not acceptable. So we've navigated a lot of that. But we moved ahead, and so I have some pictures for you today of what it looks like. I think, Rebecca, you may have to... Yeah, I think you might have to. So we decided that we identified a wall. It turned out that the city came in and said that that wall was not structurally sound. And so we kind of worked with the community center and decided that we were going to create free... We're going to create...
Oh, that's my friends.
That's okay. We were going to create freestanding images that can be moved. And so we looked for found material to create the backgrounds. And that's basically what this is. So we found pallets that were abandoned, broke them down, and reassembled them into large canvases, basically. And then I went through with masking tape. Well, so we did the pallets, and then we spray painted them all black, and then we went through with masking tape and masked off the shape of large stained glass windows, and then we invited the whole community and graffiti artists to come in and just tag it up however they wanted to. We ended up having about 40 people, 40, 50 people. It was 2 solid days of like painting. The whole actually active process was like maybe a week because so much of it was prep. But it was a great experience, and you had a lot of women who would never normally do it, but because everybody else was doing it, it wasn't that big of a deal. And you got a lot of like, I'm not an artist, and I was like, there's literally no way to mess up. I would like pick up paint, like throw it, and like walk away, and they were like, well, okay, if it doesn't matter. So I have a lot of videos up. My YouTube channel is called Theory Generator Playground, so if you go up there, I've got all these different phases kind of video recorded. So this is what they tend to look like when you're done. Lots of overlapping different styles of art. I'm sorry you guys aren't able to see. But when you take the tape off, however, they really do look like, do we have any of those, the ones that I just sent you, Rebecca?
No.
They really, I'll pull one up on my computer, but they really do look like stained glass. And so once we finished the stained glass portion of it, we did photo shoots of women in the community being active.